I still can't believe you're nervous, Marcus said, laughing as he straightened my collar. You've loved Elena since we were kids. Today is supposed to be your happiest day. I forced a smile. What if she says no? Marcus slapped my shoulder. She won't. Everyone knows you two belong together. I wanted to believe him. For years, I had imagined this day. I was not rich. I did not own land or wear expensive clothes. All I had were strong hands, honest work, and a promise that I would spend my life making Elena happy. That promise meant everything to me. When I reached the town square, colorful banners covered every street. Musicians played cheerful songs while people laughed and danced. The royal family had come to celebrate the harvest festival, and the entire town wanted a glimpse of them. Elena waved the moment she saw me. "Ethan," she called. I hurried over, unable to hide my smile. "You look beautiful," I said. She brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "Do I really?" "You always do." She laughed softly. "You're still terrible at giving compliments." "I'm only telling the truth." For a moment, it felt like nothing could change. Then a loud trumpet echoed through the square. Everyone turned. "The prince!" someone shouted. People stepped aside as a line of royal guards entered first. Behind them rode Prince Adrian Valmorn on a white horse. His polished armor reflected the afternoon sun, and the crowd cheered as if a hero had arrived. Marcus leaned closer. "I've never seen so much gold on one person." I nodded without speaking. The prince climbed down and greeted the townspeople with an easy smile. "Enjoy the celebration," he said. "Today belongs to all of you." His voice was calm and confident. Then his eyes stopped on Elena. She froze. The prince walked toward us. "You," he said, smiling at her. "What is your name?" "Elena Carter, Your Highness." "A beautiful name." I felt my stomach tighten. The prince looked at me. "And you are?" "Ethan Hale." "A friend." Before I could answer, Elena spoke. "We grew up together." The words hit harder than I expected. Not asterisk the man I loved dot asterisk. Not asterisk the man beside me dot asterisk. Just someone she had grown up with. Prince Adrian smiled again. "Miss Carter, would you honor me with a dance?" The crowd gasped. Marcus whispered, "This isn't good." I tried to stay calm. "Elena," I said quietly, "you don't have to." She looked at me. Then she looked back at the prince. I suddenly realized I had no idea which choice she was about to make. Marcus found me sitting beside the river before sunrise. "You've been here all night, haven't you?" he asked. I nodded. I didn't want to go home. "You can't keep punishing yourself." "I'm not." He sighed. "Ethan, every time someone says Elena's name, you stop breathing for a second." "I'll get over it." "No," he replied quietly. "You won't if you stay here." I looked across the water. The town that had once felt like home now felt like a prison. Every corner carried a memory. Every smile reminded me of the day I lost everything. "I don't belong here anymore," I admitted. Marcus sat beside me. "Then leave." I turned toward him. "Leave?" "Yes. Start somewhere nobody knows your name. Somewhere people judge you by your work instead of your past." "What if I fail again?" "You already survived your worst day." His words stayed with me. A week later, I packed my small bag. My mother hugged me tightly. "Promise you'll come back someday." "I promise." Marcus handed me a folded paper. "What's this?" "A job notice. A construction company in Iron Ridge City needs workers." "I've never even been there." "That's the point." I smiled for the first time in days. "Thank you." He pulled me into a hug. "When you build your new life, don't build it around revenge." "I'll try." "No," he corrected. "Do more than try." The journey lasted 2 days. When I stepped off the crowded train, smoke filled the air. Tall factories covered the skyline, and machines roared from every direction. Nobody looked at me. Nobody knew me. For the first time since the festival, I felt invisible. Strangely, it brought me peace. The construction supervisor barely glanced at my papers. "Can you lift heavy stone?" "Yes." "Can you work 12 hours?" "Yes." "Can you complain?" "No." "Good. Report before sunrise tomorrow." The work broke my body. By the end of the first day, my hands bled. By the third day, my shoulders burned every time I moved. One worker laughed. "New guy, thinking about quitting already?" I shook my head. I didn't come here to quit. Another worker handed me a bottle of water. "Keep talking like that, and this city will either make you rich or bury you." I answered with a tired smile. "I've already buried my old life." They stopped laughing. Nobody asked another question. That evening, I sat alone outside the workers' dormitory. I stared at my blistered hands. "They still hurt," I whispered, "but at least they are hurting for my future." Victor called me into his office early Monday morning. "Sit down, Ethan," he said. I looked around the room. Did I do something wrong? He smiled. "If you had, I wouldn't have offered you coffee." I sat across from him. "You've worked here for 6 months," he continued. "You've never missed a day, never blamed anyone else, and every foreman speaks well of you." "I just do my job." "No," he replied. "You do more than your job." I stayed quiet. Victor slid a folder across the desk. "I own a warehouse on the east side of the city. I've heard people complain about it. They have good reasons." I opened the folder. The numbers looked terrible. Late deliveries, missing inventory, unhappy workers, falling profits. Victor folded his hands. "I want you to manage it." I stared at him. "Me?" "Yes. I've never managed anything." "You've managed yourself. That's harder." "I don't know anything about business." "You know people." I hesitated. "What if I fail?" Victor leaned forward. "Then you'll learn." I finally nodded. "I'll do it." "Good." When I arrived at the warehouse the next morning, dozens of workers watched me with doubtful faces. One older man stepped forward. "So you're the new boss?" "I guess I am." He crossed his arms. "My name is Daniel Brooks. I've heard about you." "I'm sure you have. They say you've worked here 20 years. "I have." "And you don't think I belong here?" "I think you're too young." "I'm willing to prove you wrong." Daniel shrugged. "We'll see." The first week felt like a storm. Workers argued. Orders arrived late. Machines stopped without warning. Everyone expected me to start shouting. Instead, I asked questions. "Why are deliveries always delayed?" I asked. A driver answered. "Nobody checks the loading schedule." "Who repairs the machines?" "No one until they break." "Who talks to the workers?" Daniel laughed. "Nobody." I looked around. That changes today. Several workers exchanged surprised looks. During lunch, I sat beside them instead of eating alone. One worker frowned. "Bosses don't sit with us." "I do." Another smiled. "Why?" "Because you know this place better than I do." Daniel watched quietly without saying a word. That afternoon, I walked through every corner of the warehouse with a notebook. Daniel followed me. "Looking for problems?" "No." "What then?" "Solutions." He raised an eyebrow. "You really believe this place can change?" "I have to believe it." He looked at me for several seconds before speaking again. "I've seen 5 managers come and go. I'm not planning to leave." "We'll see." The next morning, a young woman entered the warehouse carrying several reports. She stopped in front of me. "So you're Ethan?" "I am." "I'm Grace Lawson." I recognized the last name immediately. "Mr. Lawson's daughter?" "Yes." She handed me the papers. "My father wants weekly reports." "I'll send them." She glanced around the warehouse. "You've already moved half the storage shelves." "The workers suggested it." "The workers? They know what slows them down." She folded her arms. "My father hired a manager, not a listener." I met her eyes. "I think a good manager has to be both." She didn't answer. Instead, she picked up one of my notebooks and quietly turned the pages. A faint smile almost appeared before she closed it again. "I'm not convinced," she said. "I don't expect you to be." "Good." She turned toward the office. "I'll be back next week." As she walked away, Daniel stood beside me. She asked hard questions. I noticed. "So do I." I smiled. "Then I guess I'll need good answers." 3 years changed everything. The warehouse that everyone expected to fail became the strongest part of Victor's company. One success led to another. We expanded into shipping, then construction, and finally technology. Every new contract brought bigger opportunities, but it also brought people who wanted to stop us. One morning, Victor called me into the conference room. "Ethan," he said, "I want you to meet someone." A woman stood beside the window, holding a thick folder. She turned toward me. "I'm Sophia Bennett." I offered my hand. "Ethan Hale." She shook it firmly. "I've heard a lot about you. I hope most of it was good." She smiled. "That depends on who was talking." Victor laughed. "I like her already." Sophia placed the folder on the table. "I resigned from my last company yesterday." "Why?" I asked. "Because I refused to help hide stolen money." I frowned. "You exposed your own employer." "I exposed criminals pretending to be executives." Victor looked at me. "She lost her job because she chose honesty." Sophia folded her arms. "I'm not asking for sympathy. I wasn't planning to give it." She nodded once. "Good answer." Victor pushed the folder toward me. "I want Sophia to become our financial strategist." I opened the reports. The numbers were impressive. "You prepared all this overnight?" Sophia answered calmly. "I finished before midnight." "You work fast." "I work carefully." I looked at Victor. "I think she's exactly what we need." Sophia smiled for the first time. "I was hoping you'd say that." A week later, we reviewed several investment proposals together. Sophia pointed at one document. "Reject this." "Why?" "The profits look attractive." "They do." "So what's wrong?" "The company owns nothing." I blinked. "What do you mean?" "They rent every building they claim to own." I looked again. She was right. "How did you notice that?" "I read the fine print." I laughed. "I almost signed it." "You almost made a very expensive mistake." Grace walked into the room carrying coffee. "Morning." "Morning," I replied. She placed one cup beside me and another beside Sophia. "I've heard impressive things." Sophia smiled politely. "I've heard you're the reason Ethan double-checks every decision." Grace looked at me. "Does he?" I nodded. "More than I'd like to admit." Grace laughed. "Good." Later that afternoon, Marcus entered my office without knocking. "Ethan." "What happened?" "We won the harbor transit contract." I stood so quickly my chair nearly fell. "You're serious?" Marcus grinned. "We beat every competitor." Sophia looked at the documents. "Not every competitor." "What do you mean?" I asked. She handed me another file. "One company withdrew before the final bid." "Why?" "I don't know." Grace glanced over the page. "Whitmore Holdings." Marcus frowned. "I've heard that name." "So have I," Sophia said quietly. I looked at her. "Should I know them?" She hesitated. "They don't lose contracts unless they already have another plan." The office became silent. A few minutes later, my assistant knocked. "Mr. Hale." "Come in. A gentleman is here to see you." "His name?" She swallowed. "Charles Whitmore." Sophia slowly closed the folder. Her expression changed completely. "So," she whispered, "he decided to come himself." I looked toward the door. "Do you know him?" She met my eyes. "I wish I didn't." 5 years had passed since I left my hometown with nothing but a small bag and a broken heart. Now I stood inside the Grand Royal Hotel, surrounded by business leaders, diplomats, and reporters attending an international charity gala organized by our company. Marcus adjusted his tie and grinned. "Remember when we shared one tiny apartment because we couldn't afford 2 rooms?" I laughed. "I also remember eating bread for dinner 3 nights in a row. You complained every single time. It was dry. You still ate it." I had no choice. Marcus looked around the ballroom. "Funny how life changes." Before I could answer, a young woman carrying a microphone approached us. "Mr. Hale." "Yes." She smiled politely. "I'm Isabella Moore from Global Business Weekly." I shook her hand. "Nice to meet you. I've been hoping to interview you." Marcus whispered, "She's been chasing you for 3 weeks." I smiled. "I've been busy." Isabella laughed. "So I've heard." She opened a notebook. May I ask one question before the ceremony begins? Go ahead. People call you the youngest business leader to build an empire without family wealth. What's your greatest achievement? I thought for a moment. It isn't the money. Then what is it? Giving people opportunities one never had. She nodded slowly. That's not the answer I expected. It's the honest one. She smiled. I believe you. Before she could ask another question, the orchestra began playing. Guests turned toward the entrance. Marcus looked beside me. Looks like the royal family finally arrived. I followed everyone's eyes. Prince Adrian entered first, dressed in an expensive black suit. He smiled for the cameras, but something about him felt different. His confidence looked forced. Then I saw her, Elena. For a second, every sound around me disappeared. She wore a beautiful silver gown, yet her face carried a sadness I had never seen before. Marcus quietly exhaled. I was hoping she wouldn't come. So was I. Elena glanced across the ballroom. Our eyes met. She froze. I felt old memories trying to return, but they stopped at the edge of my heart. Instead of anger, I felt peace. Isabella noticed my expression. You know, Lady Elena? I answered carefully. We grew up together. She looked between us. That sounds like a story. It is. Will you ever tell it? Maybe someday. Across the room, Prince Adrian accepted congratulations from several politicians without noticing Elena standing alone. Marcus leaned closer. He hasn't looked at her once. I stayed silent. A waiter offered us drinks. I accepted one. Marcus refused. I need a clear head. You think something's about to happen? I've known you too long. What does that mean? It means unfinished stories have a way of finding us. Before I could answer, I saw Elena take a slow breath. Then she started walking toward me. Every step brought her closer. Every memory became quieter. When she finally stopped in front of me, neither of us spoke for several seconds. She looked into my eyes. Ethan, she whispered. I answered calmly. Hello, Elena. The morning after the charity gala, Sophia walked into my office carrying 3 thick folders. We have a problem, she said. I looked up from my desk. How serious? She placed the folders in front of me, serious enough that I barely slept. Marcus entered behind her. I've never seen Sophia look worried. I'm not worried, she replied. I'm angry. I opened the first folder. What am I looking at? Hidden payments. I turned another page. These companies don't even exist. They exist on paper. And the money? It disappeared. I frowned. Who owns the accounts? Sophia hesitated. That's the interesting part. She pointed at several names connected by red lines. They all lead back to businesses controlled by Prince Adrian's family. Silence filled the room. Marcus broke it first. So the rumors were true. I wish they weren't, Sophia answered. I leaned back. Can we prove it? Not yet. The office door opened again. Isabella stepped inside carrying a camera bag. I came as soon as Sophia called. Marcus smiled. Looks like we're having a meeting. Isabella placed several documents beside Sophia's folders. I've spent 6 months investigating Whitmore Holdings. I looked at her. You've been working on this that long. I had a feeling something was wrong. What did you find? She opened one file. Fake charities. Another file. Shell companies. Then another. Money moved through dozens of accounts before disappearing overseas. Sophia nodded. Our numbers match. I looked between them. So Charles Whitmore isn't working alone. No, Isabella replied quietly. He never was. Marcus crossed his arms. If Charles is involved, then Prince Adrian is closer to this than we thought. I stared at the documents. This isn't business competition anymore. Sophia answered softly. No, it's corruption. Before anyone spoke again, my phone rang. I answered. This is Ethan. A familiar voice replied. Mr. Hale, this is Victor. His voice sounded weaker than usual. Victor, are you all right? I've been better. Should I come over? Yes. I'll leave now. He paused. And Ethan? Yes. Come alone. I ended the call. Marcus looked concerned. Is everything okay? I don't know. Sophia gathered the folders. We'll keep working. I'll meet you later. Victor's house felt quieter than I remembered. When I entered, he smiled from his chair beside the window. You came quickly. You sounded tired. I am. I sat beside him. I've been thinking. About what? You. I tried to laugh. That sounds dangerous. He smiled. Tell me honestly. I will. If you discover enough evidence to destroy Prince Adrian, what will you do? I didn't answer immediately. Victor watched me carefully. I asked because I know that look. What look? The one filled with old pain. I lowered my eyes. I used to dream about revenge. And now? I'm not sure. Victor nodded slowly. Real power is tested when revenge becomes possible. I looked at him. What would you do? He smiled gently. I would let the truth fight for itself. His words stayed in my mind long after I left the house. When I returned to the office, Sophia was waiting outside my door. She held one final document. I found the missing link, she said. I took the paper. At the bottom of the page was a signature I never expected to see. Prince Adrian Valmorn. The courthouse steps were quieter than I expected. Marcus stood beside me and watched reporters rush toward the exits. It's over, he said. I looked at the cameras. It feels strange. What does? I spent years preparing for this moment. Now that it's here, I don't feel victorious. Marcus smiled. Maybe that's because you stopped fighting for revenge a long time ago. I nodded. Judge Amelia Ross had ruled on the evidence. Charles Whitmore was taken away in handcuffs after the court uncovered fraud, bribery, and money laundering. Prince Adrian lost his influence as government investigators froze his family's business empire. Marcus glanced at me. Do you want to say anything to the press? No. They are waiting. They can wait a little longer. Before we reached the car, Isabella hurried toward us with her microphone. Ethan. I smiled. You never stop working. I have one final question. Go ahead. Do you think justice finally won? I thought carefully before answering. I think truth finally caught up. She lowered her microphone. That's a better headline. As we drove back to headquarters, Sophia called. Where are you? Almost back. I have good news. I could use some. Our international expansion was approved. I laughed. Today just keeps surprising me. You earned it. When we reached the office, employees lined the entrance. They started clapping. I stopped walking. Marcus whispered, looks like someone planned this. Daniel stepped forward. We wanted to thank you. For what? You never treated us like numbers. Another employee smiled. You listened when nobody else did. I looked around the room. I couldn't have built any of this alone. Daniel shook his head. You gave people a reason to believe again. His words stayed with me. Several weeks later, I visited Victor at his home. He looked weaker than before, but his smile hadn't changed. You've been busy, he said. I learned from the best. He laughed softly. I only opened one door. You changed my life. No, Ethan. He pointed toward me. You changed it yourself. I sat beside him. I wish you could see what the company will become. I already can. I frowned. How? I've watched you become the kind of leader money can't create. I lowered my eyes. I still make mistakes. So does everyone worth following. We talked until sunset. Before I left, he held my hand. Promise me something. Anything. Never measure success by what you own. I promise. Measure it by how many lives become better because you refuse to give up. I nodded. I'll never forget. A few days later, Marcus called me early in the morning. His voice was quiet. Ethan. I already knew. Victor. He passed away peacefully last night. I closed my eyes. The man who had believed in me before anyone else was gone. For several minutes, I couldn't say a single word. I stood on the balcony of our new global headquarters and looked across the city. Years ago, I had walked these streets with empty pockets and a broken heart. Now thousands of people worked for the company we had built together. Marcus stepped beside me. You've been standing here for 10 minutes. I've been remembering. The past. The boy I used to be. He smiled. I think he'd be proud of you. I'm not sure. I am. Before I could answer, my assistant opened the balcony door. The reporters are ready. Marcus laughed. They've been waiting all morning. I nodded. Let's not keep them any longer. Inside the conference hall, cameras flashed the moment I stepped onto the stage. One reporter raised her hand immediately. Mr. Hale, many people believe your success was driven by revenge. Is that true? I smiled. It used to be. The room became silent. Another reporter leaned forward. What changed? I did. They waited for me to continue. When someone breaks your heart, you think proving them wrong will heal you. And did it? No. What healed you? Building a life that no longer depended on another person's opinion. Several reporters began writing quickly. Another voice came from the back. So becoming richer than Prince Adrian wasn't your goal? I shook my head. It stopped being my goal years ago. What became your goal instead? Creating opportunities for people who started with nothing, just like I did. The room filled with quiet applause. After the interview ended, Grace met me outside. You handled that well. I finally meant every word. She smiled warmly. I know. We walked toward the company garden in comfortable silence. Grace looked at me. Can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever think about leaving all this behind? I laughed softly. Sometimes. And I remember the people depending on us. She nodded. That's why Victor believed in you. Before I could answer, I noticed someone standing near the fountain. Elena. She looked older, calmer, and far different from the woman who had once chased a royal dream. She slowly walked toward me. Marcus quietly touched my shoulder. We'll give you a minute. Grace nodded and followed him away. Elena stopped a few steps in front of me. Hello, Ethan. Hello. She smiled sadly. I almost turned around 3 times before coming here. I believe you. She looked around the headquarters. You really built all this? We built it. She nodded. I've wanted to tell you something for a long time. I waited. I thought wealth would make me happy. I stayed silent. I was wrong. She lowered her eyes. I confused comfort with love. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The wind carried the sound of laughter from employees celebrating below. She looked back at me. I don't expect forgiveness. I answered honestly. I forgave you a long time ago. She blinked. You did? Yes. Then why does this still hurt? I smiled gently. Because forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. A tear rolled down her cheek. I understand now.